Hello dear learners and viewers, welcome to you all, hope you are fine. Today I shall talk about comparison of adjective. In another term we can say degree. Okay, as you know there are three types of degree, that is positive degree, comparative degree and then superlative degree. Now first of all, one thing you should know, how can you identify positive degree? Okay, if you find in a sentence as or so or as, then you can be assured that this is a positive degree. The sentence is in a positive degree. Again, how can we identify whether the sentence is in comparative or positive or superlative degree? If you find in the sentence then, or, then any other, or, then all other, or, then most other, then you will be assured that the sentence is in comparative degree. Now, how can we identify superlative degree? This is also very easy. If you find the, or, one of the, or adjective with est or most or least, then we can say that the sentence is in superlative form or in superlative degree. Okay, so these are the simple criteria to identify the types of degree. Now, positive degree, and this is the basic structure of positive degree. You see, first of all, subject and then verb, then so or as, and then adjective, then as, and then comparable object or person. Now remember, this structure is applicable if the comparison is with one person or one object. Okay, you see the example, John is as brave as Edison. Here you see John is subject, verb is so or as, then adjective brave, then as, and then comparable person Edison. Okay, and here you see the comparison is with one person Edison. Okay, so this is the basic structure of positive degree. Now there is another fundamental rule, that is, if the comparison is with more than one person or object, then the structure would be no other, then comparable object or person, then auxiliary verb or main verb sometimes, then so or as, then positive form of adjective, then as, then subject. You see the example, no other, comparable object or person, man in the village, then auxiliary verb or sometimes it may be main verb, is, then so or as so, then positive form of adjective is tall, then as, and then subject Mizan. So no other man in the village is so tall as Mizan. Now comparative degree. You see the basic structure. Comparable object or person, then verb, then not, then comparative form of an adjective, then any, and then subject. And this rule is applicable if the comparison is with one person. For example, here you see John is as brave as Edison. Now I am converting it into comparative form. So comparable object or person Edison, here you see Edison, then auxiliary verb is, or sometimes it may be main verb, then not, here you see not, then comparative form of adjective, here you see brave, comparative form braver, then here you see then, and then subject John, here you see subject John. So the answer is Edison is not braver than John. Now if the comparison is more than one person or one object, then the structure would be subject, then verb, then comparative form of adjective, then any other, or then all others, then comparable object or person. You see the example? No other man in the village is so tall as Mizan. Now, I am going to convert it into comparative form. First of all, subject Mizan, Mizan, then verb is, then comparative form of adjective tall, taller, then any other. Here you see, then any other man, or then all other men in the village. Here you see, then any other. If you use then any other, then the person or the object would be in singular form. But if you use then all other, then you have to use the object or person in plural form, men. Okay. So, the answer is Mizan is taller than any other man in the village or all other men in the village. Now, superlative form. This is the basic structure of superlative form. First of all, subject, then verb, then the, then superlative form of adjective, then comparable object or person. For example, Mizan, subject, then verb is, then the, then superlative form of adjective, tallest, then comparable object or person, man in the village. So, I think this is very easy. Now, the second rule, if you find one of the in superlative form, then the basic structure would be subject, then verb, then one of the, then superlative form of adjective, then comparable object or person. Here you see the example. Akbar, subject, verb was, one of the, then superlative form of adjective, greatest, then comparable object or person, kings in India. Okay. So, here you see Akbar was one of the greatest kings in India. Now, comparative form, if you want to convert this superlative degree with one of the into comparative form, then the basic structure would be subject, then verb, then comparative form of adjective, then most other, or then few other, then comparable object or person. So, now we can change it. Akbar, here you see Akbar, subject, then verb was, then comparative form of adjective, greater, greatest, superlative form, comparative form, greater, then most other, then comparable object or person, kings in India. So, the answer is Akbar was greater than most other kings in India. Now, positive form. If you want to convert sentence with one of the from superlative to positive, then the basic structure would be very few, then comparable object or person, then verb, then so or as, then adjective, then as, and then subject. For example, you see very few comparable object or persons, kings in India, then verb. Of course, verb would be in plural form, where, then so or as, you can use as or so, then adjective, I mean positive form of adjective, greatest, here you see superlative form, comparative form, greater, positive form, great, then as, and then subject, Akbar. So, we can say very few kings in India were so great as Akbar, or as great as Akbar. So, I think this is very simple and you have understood it very well. Now, we will practice some board questions. Here you see, these are the questions that will come, that has come in different years in different board. Number 1, he was one of the greatest saints of Islam. Now you can change it positive form following the rules that I have taught you. So the answer is, here you see one of the, so positive degree we can start with very few, then comparable object or person, saints of Islam. Here you see very few saints of Islam. Here it is written in, but in question it is of, so you should write of. Very few saints of Islam, then verb where, then auxiliary verb where, and then so or as, then positive form of the adjective great, then as, and then he. So the answer is, very few saints of Islam were so great as he. Now next one. This is one of the major problems of Bangladesh. Make it positive. Okay. Again, one of the. So you can start with very few, then comparable object, problems of Bangladesh, very few problems of Bangladesh, and then you have to use auxiliary verb are. Since you start with very few, so the verb should be in plural form are, then as, and then use positive degree, positive form of the adjective major. The positive form of the adjective major is also major, so we can write major, then as, and then subject this. So the answer is, very few problems of Bangladesh are as major as these. Okay, then next one. Some poets are at least as great as Tennyson. This is very important because there is a puzzle lies in this sentence. Some poets are at least as great as Tennyson. That means Tennyson is one of the greatest poets. Okay, there are other poets who are also great. So at least means one of the. So we can start this sentence with superlative form. Okay, so we can first of all write down subject Tennyson. Okay, then verb is, then we should write one of the, then superlative form of great, greatest, and then poets. Tennyson is one of the greatest poets. Now question number D. And it suddenly occurred to Tanya that her brother was the strongest man she had ever seen. Okay, this is a long sentence, and here you see the underlined words are, her brother was the strongest man she had ever seen. In fact, this is the principal clause, and it suddenly occurred to Tanya that, here this is the additional phrase or additional clause. You need not think of this portion. You should write as it is. So, and it suddenly occurred to Tanya that, okay, this is the additional portion. Now, her brother was the strongest man she had ever seen. No other man, then the additional word she had ever seen. So, no other man she had ever seen. Now you should write verb was. Now so or as according to rule, then the positive form of the adjective is strongest. Here you should write a strong, then as according to rule, then subject her brother. Now the next one. Very few insects are as busy as a bee, comparative form. It is in superlative form. The sentence starts with very few. So the comparative form, in comparative form we have to use than most other. So first of all, in comparative form you should write subject. Here you subject a bee, then auxiliary verb is, then comparative form of the adjective busy, busier, then you have to write down than most other according to the rule, and then subject insects. So the answer is, a bee is busier than most other insects. And now the last one. A frugal man is happier than a prodigal man. Make it positive. Here you see, this is a comparison with one person. So in that case, you have to write down the comparable person or object. First of all, a prodigal man. then auxiliary verb is, then according to the rule we have to write not, then so or as, and then the positive form of the adjective happier is happy, and then according to rule we have to write as, then subject a frugal man. So, the answer is a prodigal man is not so happy as a frugal man. So, dear students, I think this is very easy, I mean one of the easiest parts in English grammar. Now, following the rule, you should practice more and more. So, dear students, that is all for today. Thank you. Bye.